All right. I am going to share a slide with y'all about it was FanDuel put this out and they said each MLB team's second GOAT. Now, I have some issues with this because first of all, I want to know who they think each team's GOAT is.
Yeah, that was my first question. Who's number one? Because this is
Right, because then
hard
you
to
can
compare.
then you can compare the rest of them.
No, I think in
And
some cases it's obvious who the number one is, but there's others where it's like, well, it could be any number of people.
right, because if it could be any number of people, then they would be number 2 if they're not
Right.
number 1. And then that's
Exactly.
where the list comes in. So, let's start at the top. Arizona Diamondbacks, Luis Gonzalez. I'm guessing they have Randy Johnson as the GOAT there.
I think it has to be him, just given the seasons he had, the Cy Youngs he won there, and the playoff performances. And in that case, I think Luis Gonzalez is a solid number 2.
Yep. Okay, Braves, obviously Hank Aaron here.
Yeah, makes sense
It,
to me. I mean,
you think Greg Maddux is number 2?
yeah, I mean, I think Greg Maddux is the right number 2. I mean, there's other guys that kind of linger around out there, but I think it's probably
Yeah.
Maddux that gets the nod at 2.
Okay. Baltimore Orioles Jim Palmer as the second GOAT. It's got to be Brooks or Cal, right?
Exactly. There's only 2 guys that come to mind, but like if it's not Brooks and it is Cal, then why is Brooks not number 2? And if it's Cal, if it's Brooks, why isn't Cal number 2? As good as Jim Palmer was, I see it as it's probably Cal Ripken, Brooks Robinson, Jim Palmer for me.
I'm with you there too. Okay, this one, Boston Red Sox, David Ortiz, number 2. I don't like this one. And
okay,
I know
interesting.
It's Ted Williams to me.
Of course, number 1. There's no argument there.
You have Roger Clemens. You have Pedro Martinez. You have Cy Young. You have Carl Yastrzemski.
Freddie Lynn. Like you can, there's a lot.
I don't, as clutch as David Ortiz was in the playoffs, I don't think he's the team's second GOAT. He's top 5 for me. Top 5.
Oh, for
no
sure.
doubt.
He might even be top 3, but I have a tough time putting him second because of all the other guys you mentioned. Now, when you think about his importance, I mean, he's probably there because of his importance to that curse-breaking run. But when you look at the balance of his career, I don't think he's the second.
And this has got to be his persona too, right? His persona shines through and makes him like Boston lore for sure.
He's a legend in Boston. Like he's like, it's like the mayor.
Okay. Chicago Cubs, Sammy Sosa, second GOAT. First one's got to be Ernie Banks. Fergie Jenkins is up there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate Sammy, but you could probably make an argument there's a better choice than Sammy, but I don't think you can make it's one of those where like, would it compel you to move Sammy Sosa out of the number 2 spot? Maybe not.
No. White Sox, Minnie Minoso. I'm guessing, total guess, that they're going Frank Thomas here.
That's the only one I could think of that would jump Minnie Minoso is Frank Thomas.
Yeah. And now this one could be a bunch of people, but they have
Cincinnati's a tough one because this could be a whole bunch of people depending on your perspective.
So Johnny Bench is the second GOAT. Who would you think is number 1 there?
I mean, the first name that jumps to mind, it's not necessarily a popular choice, is Pete Rose. I feel like Pete probably gets consideration for number 1. I mean, you think about the other guys, Joe Morgan, like no way would he jump Johnny Bench.
Can you just put number 2 as the big red machine? Like, can you just put honestly, all those guys there?
There's, I mean, so many guys in that group. So I feel like number 1's probably Pete Rose.
Yeah.
I have a tough time not believing Johnny Bench is number 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. He's the all-time hit king, dude.
I mean, he is, but he did it because he played for freaking forever. But I know
he still did it.
He did it. I get it.
The Indians / Guardians here, Jose Ramirez is their second GOAT already. I'm thinking number 1 is Bob Feller. That's just
guess. I went down the path of Jim Thome thinking he might be number 1.
Okay. I think he played for too many teams for him to be the
Fair.
Indians GOAT. I think it's Feller number 1 there.
Okay, I would be okay with that.
Yeah. Larry Walker for the Rockies. So this tells me that they put Todd Helton first because those
And
are
I
your only 2.
think that's wrong. I feel
I
like
do
Larry
too.
Walker is one. I
Yeah.
mean, who would name a Rocky that's more synonymous with that team and had a better career than Larry Walker? I don't think you can. As good as Todd Helton was, I still think it's Larry Walker.
Yeah. Jay, the photo in the back is you might not be able to see it that well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. But it is a post that FanDuel put out about each MLB team's second greatest player of all time. So we're just kind of running down through and either disagreeing or agreeing with who they chose. So we are on the Tigers. Miguel Cabrera, number 2.
Yeah.
I mean, second to Ty Cobb, right?
Well, so yeah, you got a lot of guys in history. You got Cobb, you got Kaline. You got a lot of guys on that list, but I feel like Miggy's a solid number 2.
Yeah. Jose Altuve for the Astros.
So this one I struggle with. Who's number 1? Is it Bagwell? Is it Biggio? Like who?
Nolan Ryan.
I mean, but is he in Houston long enough, you think, to be the number 1? Because I was thinking he might be the number 1 for Texas.
Yeah, I mean, we'll
I
get
don't
to
know.
it later. I think he could be number 1 for Anaheim too, but I don't.
He could be number
I
1
don't
for
know.
several teams.
We just don't know. But you have Bagwell and Biggio that are proven that I would put over Altuve at this moment.
Yeah.
Maybe not when Altuve's career is over.
I'd say,
but
I think when
Altuve's
done, he's probably a solid number 2. But I think to look at him right now, that might be a bit much.
Yeah. Royals, Salvador Perez, George Brett's
behind
number
George
1.
Brett. Yeah, that one to me is pretty straightforward. And I like Sal Perez as number 2. He's an icon there.
Yep. Mike Trout for Anaheim. So this is where I'm like, it's who's number 1?
Right. Who's number 1?
Am I it's not Tim Salmon or Troy Glaus or
I mean,
it's got to be Ryan, right? It's got to be Nolan Ryan, right?
I don't know.
Vlad Guerrero.
Hey, Jay, if you're still in the chat, who's the best Angel of all time? Who are we missing? Because Mike Trout to me is probably the number 1 already.
Yeah, Garrett Anderson. I mean, that's a good one too. But I was thinking Nolan Ryan as well. I don't know.
It's again, without knowing the number 1 on some of these, it's tough.
Yeah. Clayton Kershaw, they have number 2.
No.
Oh, he had 3 or 4 no hitters at that. Oh,
time. Good point. Yeah, fair. All right.
Rod Carew. See, we're gonna get to Rod Carew because he's the second. Yeah.
A tough
Clayton
one.
Kershaw for the Dodgers.
Love Kershaw as the second pick. I mean, I'm guessing number 1 is probably Jackie. I mean, are we thinking it's Jackie?
David Eckstein, duh. For the Angels.
I used to love Eckstein.
Yeah.
Darren Erstad was the other guy that I loved.
Yeah, Clayton Kershaw for number 2 all-time Dodger GOAT. You got Koufax. You got Robinson. Kershaw's top 5 in that franchise, no doubt.
Yeah, my immediate mind went to, it was Koufax, it was Jackie. I was probably thinking Jackie just given the high-profile nature of who he was. But I don't love Clayton Kershaw as number 2. Again, I think he's probably on the Mount Rushmore of Dodgers, but I don't think he's the first or second guy listed.
Yeah. All right. This one's interesting because Florida, we got Hanley Ramirez as the second GOAT, but who's the best all time? And it's hard with the Marlins because they're there, then they're gone.
I know. That's the thing. Like you look back at the history and like who's been really good there. Well, Josh Beckett was. Miggy started there, but he's already popped up somewhere else. I mean, Conine was like a legend there. Sheffield was there for a while. I don't know who number 1 is.
Cliff Lloyd. I really don't know.
Honestly, like it's probably like Josh Johnson or Josh Beckett are your number 1, but it's a low bar. Like nobody's there for long.
Yeah. Milwaukee Brewers, Paul Molitor's their number 2. Robin Yount's number 1.
I was just going to say it's got to be Yount.
But you got Fingers in there, but he's been, split his time with Oakland there, so probably not.
Closer, right. So whatever.
Yeah. Twins, Rod Carew, number 1 being Kirby Puckett. I don't think there's really
Killebrew?
much. Okay, there is discussion.
I was like, wait a second. Let's not slam that door shut just yet. Although I do love Kirby Puckett.
I I do think it's Kirby Puckett number 1 is what they're thinking there. Because
Fair
if David Ortiz is number 2 for their persona, then it's got to be Rod Carew. I mean, it's got to be Kirby Puckett there for just everything he embodied. Twins baseball there for
exactly.
so long.
He was the guy.
Yeah. Big Sexy should be in the Brewers combo. Yep. Mike Piazza for second greatest Mets of all time.
So who goes ahead of him?
Doc Gooden, Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, Darryl Strawberry.
Oh, I mean, Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry.
David Wright.
I mean, David Wright's the name that popped up, but again, another career that got cut short.
Tom Seaver? Tom Seaver's got to be 1, right?
Oh, no, eventually I came back around to it's probably Seaver that is the number
gotcha.
1.
Understood.
But like David Wright, I feel like his career was cut too short. Gooden and Strawberry are Hall of Famers, kind of because Cohen's a fan. Yeah, it's got to be Seaver.
Number 1, yeah. Jose Reyes. I mean, yeah.
It's probably in the conversation.
Yeah. This one, they got Derek Jeter.
Yeah, who's number 1?
Number 2.
So who's number 1 here? I mean, who are you going to pick? Is it Ruth, Gehrig, Mantle? I mean, who are you picking?
It's Ruth.
Because there's a lot of people that would say, well, Babe's not really the number 1 guy anymore. Like, people don't view him that way. But I mean, sure, he probably he still has the cachet.
He's the number 1 guy in baseball, period. Still.
Yeah.
You might not think that right now, but if you ask an average baseball fan who's
he's
the best player of all time, everyone says Babe Ruth.
It's the best known name. But like, you even look at all these different sites that rank players, like Ranker and all them, like they don't even put Babe Ruth in the top. He's not he's like number 3 now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Willie Mays takes over the top spot, but that's a debate for a different day.
No, Ted Williams. Moving on.
Okay. Anyways, Derek Jeter, number 2, I don't agree with. Top 5, yes. Championships, everything he embodied in Yankees. He's got to be top 5.
I mean, just solely for him jumping in the stands, I think he's got to be number 2, Nick. That catch was amazing.
Moving on.
No, I mean, I love Jeter. He was the Yankees. He was such a big piece of that history. Is he number 2? Probably not. Is he on the Mount Rushmore? Yes, but he's probably not number 2.
Yeah. All right. A's Mark McGwire.
It's got to be Ricky. It's number 1, right?
Reggie Jackson.
That's probably Ricky. I'd go Ricky number 1.
It'd have to be Ricky.
And Mark McGwire, I'm okay with him number 2.
This one is hard for me to even spit out.
This one makes my head hurt.
Chase Utley as their second GOAT in Philly.
So clearly it's Schmidt, number 1.
Has to be.
That's not an argument. But you're telling me Chase Utley's number 2 behind him out of you got Rollins, Halladay, Carlton. I mean,
Kruk.
But we're going with Chase. I mean, as good as Chase Utley was and as important he was to the organization, is he number 2? I have a tough time believing that.
Yeah. This one makes me spit fire.
I saw this one. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good.
This one makes me spit fire. Roberto Clemente, the second GOAT.
So
on
who's
the
won?
Pirates.
Stargell? Like, who's won?
I don't know.
Garrett Cole?
I Paul Scanes already. I don't know.
Jason Kendall.
God, how is Roberto Clemente the second GOAT on the Pittsburgh Pirates?
I don't know. I'd love to know who's number 1 because I can't. I mean, you could maybe make an argument that Stargell would get that kind of consideration, but like Mazeroski's not in that conversation. Like there's not guys that are better than Clemente.
There's no. I can't think of a single one. There can't be. I don't know, man. That one blows my mind.
That one's tough.
That one makes me really upset in this whole list. But all right.
Oh, here's a good point. Were they thinking Bonds?
Maybe.
That's not
a
fair
bad one. Oh, Honus Wagner.
Oh, Honus, you're right.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay, we're good now.
I mean, we're not good.
No,
I don't
think
Honus Wagner.
That's still a tough one, but at least that one makes sense.
That's who they went with. It has to be Honus Wagner number 1.
I'd love to. It'd be great to see the number 1 just to be able to compare.
Thank you, Ben, for that. Complete brain fart there.
Yeah. No. Good point.
So for the Padres, Trevor Hoffman, I think this is a no-brainer. Tony Gwynn's
Tony
number
Gwynn.
one.
Yep. Won't argue that.
Trevor Hoffman's there.
Yep.
San Francisco, Barry Bonds gets number 2 here. It has to be behind Willie Mays.
Has to be. There's nobody else that gets that spot.
No, and would
I'm okay with that.
Right, and would leapfrog Barry Bonds. Like,
Yep.
as good as Willie McCovey was,
No,
you're not going to leapfrog Barry Bonds at number
No,
2.
you know, Buster Posey, there's no chance. It's
Ichiro Suzuki for the Mariners. It's got to be Griffey or
got to
Johnson.
be behind Junior. Yep.
But you got Randy Johnson too.
You do.
But I think I would. It's hard to argue 3,000 hits in the career that Ichiro put in Seattle. So I don't have. I'm not going to lose sleep over that one.
I'm okay with that one.
St. Louis Cardinals, Albert Pujols. Now, yes, 700 career home runs, but who's the top spot? Is it Musial?
It's got to be Musial.
Or is it Bob Gibson?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's probably Stan the Man they took there, but you could argue Gibson would slot into that spot nicely too.
I personally, I think would take Bob Gibson, but
see, I would probably take Stan the Man, but I would be okay with either one of them being in that spot.
Yeah,
I would not be upset.
Yeah. All right. Tampa Bay Rays, Carl Crawford's their second GOAT.
Behind who? Like Evan Longoria? Like who's?
It has to be Evan Longoria.
There's just nobody's ever there long enough for them to really have an impact.
Scott Kazmir is the only other name I could come up with that I could semi make an argument for, but it's got to be Longoria there.
Yeah, I mean David Price, as good as he was there, he wasn't there that long.
No. Adrian Beltre for your Texas Rangers.
In my mind, this was behind Nolan.
It has to be. Has to be.
Wade Boggs for 1 year in Tampa.
Yeah. Fred McGriff falls in that category. Greg Vaughn was actually brought up too, but yeah. Nolan Ryan's got to be the Texas one for sure.
Has to be.
All right, Toronto. This one's an interesting one for me too. Jose Batista's the second GOAT. It's got to be Roy Halladay, right?
I mean, my mind went to the only other guys that might get consideration would be like Halladay and Carter, but Joe Carter wasn't even there that long. I shouldn't say not there that long.
No,
he wasn't like that impactful when he was there, other than the home run.
Yeah,
I feel like
I was gonna say only hit a walk-off World Series home run. No biggie. But
like on the balance, there's not much to talk about there. So I feel like it has to be Halladay.
Maybe Delgado.
Comment in the chat, Delgado. I mean,
yeah, possibly.
I used to love Carlos Delgado. But yeah, I feel like it's probably Halladay.
Yeah. And then the last one we got, thanks for sticking with us and helping us out, guys. They got Tim Raines for the Expo/Nationals for their second GOAT.
Expo/Nationals/Senators/ just keep going.
Whatever. Yeah.
I mean, who's number one here?
Vlad Guerrero Sr.?
I say, is it Guerrero? Is it Pedro? Is it
Randy Johnson for a year?
There's a bunch of guys. Mark Grudzielanek, your favorite guy, Nick.
Henry Rodriguez.
Oh, Henry.
Yeah.
It's.
I would say it's Vlad Guerrero Sr.
Yeah, I'd probably give you Vlad. I mean, Pedro be in consideration there, but I think he'd be more likely to show up on a list somewhere else.
It was saying Walter Johnson it'd be the Senators.
Oh, good point. If you're going all the way back to the lineage.
But I mean, it says Expos Nationals, so I don't know if they're counting the Senators. I mean, we just don't know because this is FanDuel's list, so
right.
I have no idea. But
and you know they gave you the second on purpose just to get people to debate who the first was.
I mean, look at us. We just spent a half hour on it. So I mean,
we are those people, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. But yeah, it's interesting. This list, and it definitely sparks a lot of baseball conversation, which obviously we love. So
yeah, there's a lot of it that I agree with, and there's some of it that I kind of go, maybe not.
Yeah.